Left off last week, the last few pesukim of Mishlei, the last two pesukim. Tov erech hapayim migibor moshel verocho venoched ir. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit is better than he who takes a city, he who conquers a city. That's the basic translation. Shlomo Melech is talking about the value of one who is able to control himself, his anger, one who is disciplined. As we will see B'ezrat Hashem throughout the Sefer of Mishlei, there are many valuable lessons, ideas that he shares with us, many of them being from his experience, and of course the whole Sefer is being written by Ruach HaKodesh, so he has tremendous insight into human nature, and this is very valuable for us to learn. The earlier the better, so we don't make any mistakes that we regret. So Erech HaPayim is a beautiful midah. It is a midah that describes HaKadosh Baruch Hu in dealing with human beings. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very tolerant of us. We make many mistakes. We many times go against His wishes. Erech HaPayim is therefore a tremendous challenge. An individual who possesses this midah of Erech HaPayim, he is described as being very powerful, very strong. What's so special about being very strong? These are admirable traits, not that which you find in the Guinness Book of World Records. Many of those records maybe are gifts from Shamayim. This is something that one accomplishes on his own. He is stronger than a loked ir, the one who conquers a city. One who conquers a city has a lot of help, outside help. He has many foot soldiers. So he has many forces to his assistance. One who is fighting against his nature, he's fighting against all the forces. He has no outside help. So there's a tremendous difference between one who controls his anger and one who is able to demonstrate a tremendous feat of conquering a city. After all, the bottom line in conquering a city, in winning a battle, is that battle was won min hashamayim. Min hashamayim, one received assistance to do battle against the city, to win. When one does battle with his own nature, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps those who first helped themselves, nevertheless he did it on his own, through his own free will. There's no shamayim really involved here in him going against his nature. When one goes to war, which side will win depends on what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. So this is a very admirable trait, something that everyone needs to work on. To be tolerant, to be patient, to restrain oneself, to not get angry, even at times when there is a need to get angry. The anger should be perhaps shown on the outside, but inside one should not lose his control. That was the last pasuk of that chapter. Here he translates it that the lot is cast into the lap, but the decision is only from Hashem. Very interesting pasuk. A lot of people are envious, would like to have what somebody else has. They feel sorry if somebody grabbed the deal before them. He says in the end, everything is cast in the lot. Everything is min hashamayim. Hakol bidei shamayim chutz mirat shamayim is a very important rule in Judaism. It takes a tremendous amount of bitachon, not emunah, not plain faith, but bitachon, reliance in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we trust that He apportions everything in this world accordingly to wherever it needs to go, and whatever one receives, that's what Hashem wants him to have, not more, not less. And therefore it would be silly to be envious to want that which someone else has, because that was meant for him and not for us. And it's all in a goral. It's all part of the fate or destiny, as goral is really called. And if you want to test this out, just go to bingo games and guess who wins? All the prizes. It's always the rich. It's always the rich that win the cars. It's always the rich that get the $1 million thing. Because money goes to money. Because it's all part of a mazal. You won't see, very rarely, sometimes you see a lucky man, a poor man winning the lottery. That happens too. But for the most part, there's a mazal. And this mazal dictates who will win. And whoever has the better mazal will always win. So why feel bad about it? It's going to go wherever it's meant to go. That's the simple meaning of the pasuk. Me'ashem kol mishpato, everything is min hashamayim. Nothing is by chance. Judaism does not believe that anything is by chance. Everything is preordained. For everything there is a cheshbon, there is a reason. The word goral is something very interesting. It is also used to apply to situations where one does not know what to do. Some very difficult decisions in life that one can make a goral, as certain rabbis have done in the past. And as it is done sometimes even today under certain situations, to know what to do. There's a way to do it, to figure out what the Torah advises us to do. And under certain circumstances, one can seek the help of Hashem to try to figure out what is the right thing to do. And that is determined also through a Goral. That was pretty much the last pasuk in the chapter that we did last week. And that Goral is one's destiny, one's fate. Or it means the lot, to cast a lot. Okay, now we're going to begin chapter 17. Here you will see many concepts that are not necessarily related to each other. Some may sound familiar. Nevertheless, they're very significant. And we're going to do approximately half the chapter today. It is better to have a dry piece of bread and have tranquility than a house full of sacrifices, of strife, of arguments, of fights. In other words, what's good is all the luxuries and all the money that one has in a big mansion if every day he's fighting with his spouse, if every day there are fights amongst the kids, the siblings. What kind of a home is that? What is all the luxuries worth? It is better to have pat hareva, a dry piece of bread, but tranquility, peace of mind. Shlomo Melech says, you know how important, how valuable it is to have peace of mind? A lot of people don't have peace of mind. They have money, but they don't have peace of mind. And whose fault is it? It's their fault, as we're going to see why people destroy their tranquility. That's what he's going to talk about. How that tranquility is disrupted through people's own actions. I mean, life can be very, very difficult for some people who struggle, but even in the struggle, there could be a certain degree of peace of mind and tranquility. In Hebrew it's called shalvat hanefesh. When a husband and wife are very close, really close, there is respect between the two of them, and they're not very demanding, they're very simple people, that is a recipe for success. When a person becomes demanding, that leads to, basically, that's a form of selfishness, because he wants something for himself. And when one is selfish, and the other one, doesn't get what he wants, and he insists on getting what he wants, you can see what this is going to breed. So it's better to live a simple life. No credit cards. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. But in this country, of course, they got you used to borrowing the money. If you don't have it, borrow it. You owe yourself a Lexus, the latest one. And don't worry about payments, $200 a month. You can lease it. But if you only make $60,000 a year, that's not the car you should be buying. You should be buying a used car, a 1999 2000 for $4,500, and it will work just fine. It will get you to work. But the problem is people have to make an impression. In some circles, it either is a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz. Otherwise, you don't belong in the circle. And that's silly, because these kind of things interfere with the tranquility of a person's life. How? Because if he doesn't have it, he's going to feel bad. He's going to feel miserable, especially if his neighbor has it. A simple life, that is the recipe for tranquility. One of the ingredients of tranquility is to be not so demanding, to be willing. Anyway, so that's what he means by a dry piece of bread. You don't have to have steak, filet mignon, and all the good food. You can have even a simple Israeli salad with a little bit of hatzilim and a piece of bread, and they have a very nice dinner. And if you want to be romantic, you can put some flowers or candles on the table, and it will be just as beautiful.
Healthier.
Yeah. What is that?
And healthier.
And healthier, sure. Yeah, that's the idea over here. The Midrash says something very interesting. The Midrash says you're better off living in Israel, even with less money, than living in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, with lots of money. But you're living in Israel. In Israel, it's hard, to live it up like people live it up over here. It's a little harder, So the rabbis tell us, don't feel bad about it. You're in Eretz Israel. You should feel happy that you're at least there, even if you don't have that much. Those people who are really living there are very fortunate. They have a tremendous zechut, merit, to be living in Eretz HaKodesh. So that is the words of the Midrash on this pasuk. Better to have a little bit, but be in the right place, than to be outside of Israel and have all the luxuries in the world. This pasuk is somewhat connected to the next pasuk, because he's going to emphasize another important point, and that is the many fights that occur when inheritance is involved. When a father and mother pass away, or one of the two or both, in many families there are fights about the inheritance. And that's even if things are written clearly. Even if it's written in a will, there's still fights. And many times they have complaints to the father and mother. Why did you do this and why did you do that? You love that son more. There's always fights. Many times there are fights amongst their brothers and sisters about the Yerusha. And what he's saying here, it's just better to have a simple life, get whatever you get, and go on with your life than pick on each other and fight forever. And some brothers and sisters don't talk to each other just because of money. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. It's a familiar scene. It's not something rare. It happens too often. And that's what leads to the next pasuk. The connection to the next pasuk is as follows. Eved maskil yimshol beven mevish ubetoch achim yachlok nachala. An intelligent slave will rule over a disgraceful son. And among the brothers he will divide inheritance. Sometimes the slave will inherit everything. Who is he talking about over here? Who eventually inherits the inheritance when all the brothers fight? The lawyers. So I call the Eved Maskil, the intelligent slave, the lawyer. He's now a part of the family, and he's making $350 an hour because they're fighting. You know how much money they can save if they wouldn't have to hire the lawyers? So in the end, this Eved Maskil, a slave, ends up taking a good portion of the money just because of the merivot, just because of the fights. In this pasuk, Eved Maskil Yimshol Beven Mevish, an intelligent servant or intelligent slave could rule over a disgraceful son. The rabbis tell us, the commentaries explain, Merumaspo, what is insinuated here is the whole idea behind Yehos. Yehos means in English a lineage. A lot of people say, my father was a rabbi, my grandfather was a big rabbi. Yeah, but who cares? What about, who are you? What are you? What have you made of yourself? As the rabbis, as it is brought down, it was a story with Rabbi Preda. Rabbi Preda was told, prepare yourself, there's a very important guest coming. Who is this guest? He's the grandson of this great grand rabbi, and he's 10 generations from Ezra Sofer. So Rabbi Preda says, I'm not impressed. If he himself is a learned man, and he has a very special lineage, that's great. If he's a learned man and he has no lineage, that's also good. But if he's not a learned man and he just has this special Yehos lineage, let the fire consume him. That's how he expressed himself. In other words, I don't care to see him. So what's the big deal? A person says, I had a great father as a rabbi, a grandfather, if he himself did not make of himself something like that. Yehos, the real importance of Yehos is only when a person follows in the ways, in the footsteps of his fathers and emulates their ways. Then he can claim, you know what, my father was like that, my grandfather was like that. Otherwise, it's Eved Maskil Yimshol Beven Mevish. In other words, the Ben Mevish over here is a disgraceful son, the one who's completely different than his parents and grandparents. The real Yehos it has only value when the individual himself partakes of it, and he emulates the ways of his parents and his grandparents. Next pasuk. Matzref lakesef v'chur lazahav u'bochen libot Adonai. Here he translates, a refining pot is for silver and a furnace is for gold, but Hashem tests the hearts. What that means is that there is different tools and vessels to refine gold and silver. And when you refine these metals, what do? You take out the sigim, all the impurities, to get pure gold and pure silver. That's done for gold and silver. Special tools, machines to refine them. But he says over here, but when it comes to the hearts, HaKadosh Baruch Hu only knows what's going on in a person's heart. Only He knows how much solet there is, how much sigim, how much impurities. Another human being cannot refine it, cannot examine it, not with any extra machine, what's going on in a person's real heart, not the physical heart. Only Hashem knows. Why does He mention this to us? Because here He's pointing out the danger of tzvoim, of the hypocrite. We may not be able to tell sometimes. We see a person conducting himself in a certain way. He has a very long beard. He prays long time. He makes an impression that he's very observant, but he's totally not honest. In other words, and we would never know just by looking at him. And there are many stories of people who trusted these people and they eventually regretted it. They were thieves. Tzvoim they're called. So he's letting us know of the danger of these tzvoim, and he's letting know the tzvoim themselves, hey, don't think nobody knows. Maybe perhaps nobody knows about you, but Hashem examines the hearts. He knows what's going on in your heart. Rabbis tell us, especially this is true with those who create a tremendous chilul Hashem. As the pasuk says, "Lo tisa Hashem Hashem lashav, Hashem Hashem Elokecha lashav, do not express the name of Hashem in vain. Who are we talking about? We're talking about a person who puts on tefillin every day but steals from people. A person that wears a tzitzit, aval merameh et habriyot. He cheats people, he misleads people. In other words, he's like using Hashem's name in vain. It's a hilul Hashem when they find out the truth of what he did. You can't play a game like that. Hashem knows. Hashem is aware. He examines their hearts. This pasuk also has another meaning. The words here, matzref lakesef v'chur zahav, the refining of gold and silver, is used to describe the time of Mashiach also. During the time of Mashiach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will refine the Jewish people. And there is a very shocking prophecy that I think hopefully is behind us. Hashem says 1/3 of the Jewish nation will be refined and will suffer. Well, during the Holocaust, we lost 1/3. There were 18 million Jews before the Holocaust. 6 million perished. So he will take 1/3, it says, and he will take from the best, and he will refine them. What does it mean to refine them? Rabbis tell us that when one receives Yisurim, when one undergoes pain and suffering, that's a refinement that cleanses him. So right before Mashiach comes, Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to remove a lot of debt that has accumulated in the Jewish nation, a lot of avonot, a lot of hataim over the years. So he refines it. He refines them by removing all the debt, by bringing about Yisurim, unfortunately. This Yisurim, of course, could be avoided if Am Yisrael would do teshuvah, if Am Yisrael would conduct themselves properly. Otherwise, Hashem performs an operation. The operation is very painful, but it's for the good of the patient, otherwise he would die. It's like the example of the foot that is suffering from gangrene. You know what gangrene is? When a leg or a foot is very sick, if they don't cut it, the gangrene will spread to the whole body. That's what an operation is for. Is to save the person's life. When Hashem performs an operation on the Jewish nation, it's painful, but it's to save our life. Yes?
If God inflicts someone suffering and there's a further away from God, is that still considered refinement?
If he does what?
If the person is being inflicted
Yes.
goes further away from God, is that still considered refinement?
Yes. He still received a refinement, but that refinement is not as beneficial to him. The Rabbi tells, "Mishe bo'et b'yisurim machpilim lo." Whoever kicks, in other words, whoever rebels against the pain, goes against it, does not accept it, me'ahava, out of love, then not only does he not get as much credit for it, but they double it on him until he gets the message. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, and how that comes about. So it does help him initially, but it depends on his attitude. All right, another idea over here is, as far as testing and challenging, when we say Hashem examines one's heart, or he challenges one, tests him to see how he's going to react, he doesn't do it for him to know. Hashem knows what's going on in our heart. When he tests someone, he challenges someone, it's for others to see. And it's for the individual to see on what level he is. If a person is tempted by a certain situation, he's tempted, and he held himself back, then he knows how strong he is. If he succumbed and he failed, then he himself knows where he's holding. So in the end, the tests, the challenges are for others to observe, or for the individual himself to see where he's holding. Hashem really knows. It's clear to him where we're all holding. He doesn't really need to examine to find out. It's the examination that's necessary for others to see, for others to learn from, and for the individual himself to see where he's holding. Next pasuk, Mera makshiv al sefat aven sheker mezin al leshon havot. Actually, before we go to that pasuk, there is another Gemara that says that all the mitzvot were given to us, letzaref bahim, et Israel. The mitzvot that were given to us, what they are for is letzaref, to purify us. But when a Jew performs a mitzvah, Hashem doesn't need our mitzvot. He doesn't need anything. He needs our animals. When we brought sacrifices, he doesn't eat. All the mitzvot that we did with our feet and with our hand and with our mouth was to refine us. It does something to our character. Imagine somebody giving tzedakah daily. It does something to himself. It hopefully takes a selfish nature and turns him into a giver instead of a taker. All the mitzvot are letzaref. They're intended, the main goal is not only to fix this world, not only to bring about the rule of Hashem in this world, but it's It's for our own personal benefit. We gain from it. The Pasuk Dalet is Mira Makshiv al Sifat Avin Sheker Mezin al Leshon Avot. Here he translates it, an evildoer, Mira. He hearkens to a language of violence. A liar lends an ear to destructive language. I'm going to translate it, I'm going to simplify it a little bit. Mira, an evildoer, a person who has evil ideas, evil thoughts. He wants to harm others. He couldn't care less about others. This is a person who's a Mira. He, because of his nature, Makshiv al Sfat Avin, he readily hears gossip, evil talk. He readily hears it because he's interested in that kind of a talk. And he doesn't care that it's Lashon Hara. He doesn't even know what Lashon Hara is. He's very unsensitive about these things because that's what he likes to do. As yesh lo ozen kashevet, as we say in Hebrew, he's looking for these things. He will be willing to receive, to accept Lashon Hara very easily. Why? Because when it comes to finding defects in human beings, it's almost like his profession. In other words, he does that on his own. So when he hears something that's not right, something that's negative about someone else, instead of going over to the individual and asking him, by the way, did you look into it? Did you investigate it? You know it's Lashon Hara. You know it's not right. It's not proper. Perhaps you shouldn't talk about him like that. You're going to hurt his reputation. He's a Mira. He's an evildoer. There are individuals out there, unfortunately, who have this nature, who therefore, you have to be careful what you say in front of them, because that's all they need to hear, and they will spread it all over town. That's the Mira. And then you have the man who's called Sheker Mezin al Leshon Havot. A liar lends an ear to destructive language. So you have a liar and you have an evildoer. A liar, because he's a liar, when he hears this Lashon Hara, Gam ken lo mavchin, he doesn't try to figure out what's true and what's false, what's exaggeration and what's not, if it's just a rumor or if it's a fact. Because he's a liar, that's his nature. So therefore, Mezin al Leshon Havot. Mezin over here is like Ma'azin. He's willing to listen to anything. He's willing to accept it. Do you actually believe everything you hear in the radio? No. You know why you shouldn't? Because a lot of time, a lot of these journalists or these people on the radio, they have an agenda. They're biased. They may write something or say something in a particular way that is wrong. So don't believe everything you hear exactly the way it's being said. But one who's a liar, one is an evildoer, because he's not concerned, because he doesn't care about other people's sensitivities, he lies, that's his nature, then he's willing to accept anything. One has to, of course, be careful in dealing with such individuals. There are people like that. The next pasuk, Loeg larash heref oseo sameach laed lo yinakeh. He who mocks a poor man, mock meaning making fun, he blasphemes his maker. He who rejoices at a misfortune will not go unpunished. There's two parts to this pasuk. Loeg larash heref oseo, one who makes fun of a poor man, mocks him. What he's really doing is mocking his creator. Why is he mocking a poor man? He's saying, you know what, you know why he's poor? He doesn't have brains. He didn't use his brains, and that's why he's not making any money. Instead of saying, that's his mazal perhaps, he's heref oseo, he's going against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's trying to explain that the whole idea of why this poor man is a poor man is because of his own undoing, because of his own problems. And in the end, in reality, it's a cheshbon milemala from Shamayim. So it's a form of disrespect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu when we try to explain somebody's personal situation in our own way. And the second part of the pasuk is Sameach le'ed lo yinakeh. There are some people who are very happy when people trip. Somebody went bankrupt, somebody's house burned down. There are some people who are really happy about it. That's called Sameach le'ed. It's a terrible midah. To be happy in the misfortune of someone else, very, very not nice. And therefore, because this is such a terrible midah, on this one, Shlomo says, Lo yinakeh. You know what Lo yinakeh means? He will not go clean. Whenever it says he will not go clean, it means ba'olam hazeh. Not ba'olam haba. Even in olam hazeh, he's going to get it. He's going to get it. Because he's so confident of himself that it's not going to happen to him. It just happens to someone else. Hashem says, because that's the attitude here. It happened to him, it didn't happen to me, it's going to happen to you. And if we're talking about a poor man, then this man, the commentaries explain, midah keneged midah, his punishment will be that one of these days he's going to have to beg as well. So sameach laed lo yinakeh, he will not go clean. one has to be very careful. The commentaries also say for making fun of any poor man who behaves in a very unusual way. The rabbis tell us the poor people can behave in an unusual way. Ki dikdukei aniyut ma'avir otam al datam ve'al dat konam. Dikdukei aniyut means because of the poverty, the pressures of poverty makes them sometimes do things or say things that they would ordinarily not say. So we have to judge them favorably. We have to be careful. It's just like somebody who under pressure did something terrible, but he was under pressure. He would never have done it otherwise. So when one sees a poor man acting in a certain way, be careful how we judge him. As the rabbis tell us in different words, don't judge someone until you put yourself in his shoes. You don't know what you would do. We don't know. So therefore we have to be extra sensitive if we see someone acting not nicely. It could be because of the pressures of the poverty that he's in. This pasuk, Loeg Larash, rabbis tell us, is also talking about one who sees a funeral going in the street, a Jewish funeral, and does not accompany the niftar. As Loeg Larash, the poor man is like a rash. The dead person is like a poor man. He has no more chances of doing mitzvot. So he's called a poor man. And here this man who's seeing this funeral is not going to give this man his last respects. That's called Loeg Larash. The rabbis tell us you have to be very careful with that. It's a terrible avon. And on the contrary, whoever is careful with accompanying those who have recently passed away, in that merit, he will also have a funeral where people will come and give their last respects. Besides the reward for the mitzvah, Hashem will make sure that he's taken care of. That people will come and attend his funeral because he was careful with others. Yeah, that's what it has to do with. I'd like to just include here in this pasuk the story, famous story of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, was going home, and in the middle of the way, he sees an individual who apparently was not very good looking, and he goes over to him and he says, "How ugly you are! Tell me, are all the people of your town just as ugly as you?" We are not here to judge great tzaddikim. We don't understand what was going on in his mind, but it did show a little bit of a lack of sensitivity. How do you think the man responded? Go complain to my maker that he made such an ugly vessel. Go ask him. As soon as he said that, he felt very bad. He says, he realized he made a mistake. He says, "I'm sorry, please forgive me." "No, I'm not forgiving you." And he went after him for several miles until he finally reached the city, his hometown. And everybody came out to greet the rabbi. And the man asked, "Who are you greeting here, giving so much respect to?" "To the rabbi." He says, "He's your rabbi? May there not be many like him in Israel." It was a curse. "What did he do to you?" And he told him what he did. "Forgive him. I'm only going to forgive him if he promises he would never do this again to anybody." And of course he promised that he would never do it again. But that was not enough. He went into the Bet Midrash and gave a special lecture about what just happened. Person should always get used to being as soft like a kaneh, like a reed, that grows in the swamps. A reed is very soft. The reed has the zechut that they take from it to make a kolmos for the sofer, to write Sifrei Torah. What do they do with the erez? The erez is very strong, the cedar, but a big strong wind knocks it down, and once it's knocked down, what do? They chop it up. They take logs for it to build homes and for the fireplace. Be soft, don't be harsh, be easygoing. Otherwise, in other words. The next pasuk we've seen similar before. Ateret zekenim bnei banim v'tiferet banim avotam. Children's children are the crown of the age, and the glory of the children is their fathers. What we have here is a situation where the parents are proud of their kids, and the kids are proud of their parents. As we've explained in the past, the ultimate nachat that every Jewish parent wants to have. Nachat means satisfaction and happiness combined together. It's called nachat. You rest, you're at peace. In Israel, there's an expression called Ayelet sheli mesudar. Ayelet sheli mesudar in Hebrew means my child is taken care of. If you ask Israelis, what does it mean a child is taken care of? Mesudar, he has a Volvo and a villa. Mesudar. In other words, I took care of him. He has his Volvo and he has his villa. And maybe his yacht also, his yacht. That's called Mesudar. What does he say? That's not called Mesudar. Sidru oto ulai, but not Mesudar, as we say in Israeli Hebrew slang. Sidru oto. In other words, that he's lost in his materialism. But the real Mesudar is called Ateret Zekenim Bnei Banim V'Tiferet Banim Avotam, when the grandparents are able to point to their children in 2 generations. Look, they're the same as us. They're just as observant, if not any better. That brings Tiferet. That brings beauty to the family as a whole. That's the real Nahat. That's the real Mesudar, when the children are good. And this is while they're alive, and also after they depart from this world. It brings tremendous happiness and satisfaction to those neshamot who are able to still see or know, they're aware of what's going down in this world, that their children or grandchildren either are doing the right thing or not. So he reminds us that this is the ultimate nachat. This is what we should strive for. This is what brings ultimate glory or beauty to the family. And as the rabbis tell us in different words, if one sees 3 generations of Torah in a family, where the grandfather was a rabbi, the son and the grandson, 3 straight generations, the Torah will always be in that family. Even if it skips one, it could skip one. The 4th generation, the boy decided he wants to be a businessman. All right. He could pray in the morning, put on tefillin, tzitzit, eat kosher, keep Shabbat, and be a businessman. And learns at night for half an hour every day, koveitim. That's fine. But the Torah has mechazeret al-achsanya shela. The Torah will eventually come back to its achsanya, to, I guess achsanya in English, to its...
Like a storage.
No, not a storage. To the inn. Achsanya is what the inn, where it rested, where it stopped to rest. You know, like a hotel. The Torah will come back into the family. So it could be that businessman's son will become a big rabbi or Rosh Yeshiva. Since you had 3 generations straight of Torah, the Torah will come back in that family. That is the true Ateret Tiferet of the family, that the Torah is there. I've been approached many times by Goyim. You know, they ask me, so what religion are you? I'm Jewish. How long have you always been Jewish? I said, yes, for over 3,000 years, the same thing. And as soon as I say that, they're, what? Yeah. We didn't start in Ireland, and we didn't come with the Mayflower. We go back a long time. Longer than the Chinese. So, yeah, nothing. No interruptions. Straight. And some families, including ours, Baruch Hashem, more or less, we can even go all the way back, many generations back, and point out who was the father, the grandfather, great-grandfather. Either it's written down, or we have it by tradition. Where we come from which shevet, from which person, all the way. Some people are able to keep track, some people have lost track. All the way to Yaakov Avinu. Next pasuk, Lo naval lenaval sefat yeter af ki lenadiv sefat shaker. Proud words do not befit a vile person, and surely not lying speech to a generous one. So we have 2 individuals here, one who is vile, one who is naval, not a good person, and one who is nadiv, one who is generous. 2 opposite people. So he says like this, just like to the vile person, to the one who's not generous, who's not nice, who's not kind, he's a naval. Just like for him, does not befit him to speak about his good character, because he doesn't have any. Because if he behaves himself in such a way, he cannot take credit for anything. I mean, it's a contradiction. It's zelo mat'im. It does not befit for a naval sfat yeter to talk highly of himself, of some accomplishment, of something that he did that's nice, because he's a naval. It doesn't befit him. Zelo mat'im lo. In the same way that to a naval you can't say good things about him, in the same way a person who's generous has to be careful not to lie. It does not fit. One who's generous, maftiach mekayem. Maftiach means he promises and he keeps his promises. If he does not keep his promise, a person who promises and does not deliver, that's sheker. That sheker lo mat'im to the character of a nadiv, of a generous man. So sheker is not good for anybody. But for somebody who's ordinarily a generous man, a kind-hearted person, he has to be extra careful that when he makes a promise, he keeps it. Because the lo mat'im lo. Just like the lo mat'im does not befit the evil man to talk about the good things that he does. It doesn't go together. In the same way, one who's a nadiv has to be careful, not even say the smallest lie, even indirect lie. Yeah, that's right. Next pasuk. Even hena shochad ve'ineh be'alav el kol asher yifnei yaskil. A bribe is a precious stone in the eyes of the one who has it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. Okay, that's this loosely translated, but the meaning of this pasuk is as follows. Bribery, as you know, is very misleading. The Torah tells us in very clear black and white words. Bribery can blind the eyes of the sages and of the righteous, not just of ordinary people. The more so, but it can even blind the eyes of the righteous people. So it says over here, you know how dangerous bribery is? It's even hen, it's like a precious stone. You'll like it. If you get used to it, it will be a beautiful precious stone that you will admire, you will enjoy. And as a result of that, el kol asher yifnei yaskil, in any case that you may have, that you're the judge, you will find ways, lehaskil, in other words, to try to find the guy innocent, try to find a way to defend the individual, try to find a way for him to win. And all of that because of the shochad. Person who gets used to accepting bribery, then that bribery becomes easy for him to take, because it's like an even hen, it's like a precious stone. It's beautiful in his eyes. He can't get rid of it. And he's not embarrassed of it. There's a story with Rabbi Ishmael in the Gemara. Rabbi Ishmael had an aris. An aris in English, it's like a lease. They used to have different kinds of leases in the time of Gemara. One lease is you pay money and you have a place for use. Another kind of lease is that you work the fields, and instead of paying cash, you pay with the produce. With the produce, you pay the landlord, here, I just planted and cultivated 100 tons of potatoes. You get 3 tons of it, right, or whatever. Yeah. That's called arisut. There's different kinds. What?
Is there a kind? One kind is mishkanta? It's called mishkanta?
No. We don't know. Arisut. There's different kinds of arisut. You know, with the money, with the produce. So this aris always used to bring some fruit to Rabbi Ishmael on Fridays. Every Friday before Shabbat, he used to bring some fruit. One time he came a day early, Thursday. So Rabbi Ishmael asked him, why did you come today? Why did you come a day early? He says, because I have a din Torah later, so I wanted to bring it to you before. He says, since you said to me that you have a din Torah, I have to disqualify myself from the case, and I'm going to have to bring you other judges. Because right now he's bringing in the fruit before the din Torah. I have to disqualify myself. Anyway, so they went to din Torah. Rabbi Ishmael was in the court watching. And as he was watching the case, he was praying for the guy to win. I wish he says this, I wish he'll say that to defend himself. And as he's thinking that hey, wait a minute, he says, I'm favoring this guy. If I can favor this guy, could you imagine other people, what they would do? And that, and he was not even the judge, he was already favoring him because of that small little, what appeared to be like a bribe. That's how dangerous a bribe is. Very, very dangerous. You have to be very careful. Now, it's a sur to accept bribe or to give a bribe. The rabbis tell us in this pasuk, even hena shochad, that the shochad is like a stone. When a rock falls, it breaks. It breaks something, right? And it could break something which was otherwise good. Where do we see that in this week's parasha? Esav and Yitzhak. Yitzhak loved Esav. Why? Kitzayid v'fiv. Because he used to give him to eat. He used to take care of him. So he liked him, especially because of that. And of course, it's his son. But he had a certain liking towards him because of the food, because of the way he was treated. And that, of course, blinded him from seeing the true behavior of Esav, that he was a rasha. He would never believe it. You know how some parents are totally blind? My son, my darling son, should do that? I don't believe you. Yeah, your darling son is a chevreman, as we say. He's a yeah.
What constitutes a bribe? What if you want to invite someone over to your house for dinner?
Yeah.
I mean, is that necessarily a Shabbat meal? I mean, the person, you may have some potential business relationship with him, but you invite him over. Is he indebted to you because you invited him over?
Is he indebted to you?
Well, I mean, it's
What do you
like
mean?
the fruit, like you talked about the fruit with Rabbi Yishmael.
That's not a bribe. You're not judging him. That's just, you want to have a good relationship with him. You want to borrow money from him, right? That's okay to do. As long as you plan to repay him. You're not just getting him ensnared by inviting him and showing how, people have gone bankrupt. They knew they were going bankrupt and they went and borrowed money. They knew they were already going bankrupt just to take away. That's totally not fair. So if your kavanot are l'shem shamayim, you want to have a pleasant relationship with him. That's fine.
But you can't be completely neutral, Rabbi. If you you used to work in the appraiser's office,
Yeah.
some client or somebody you were appraising, and it was a Jewish fellow, he invited you to his home.
Well, that's what they told us. They told us it's against the policy to accept gifts over $10, I think it was.
But is a dinner considered gift to invite you out?
Yeah, lunch also, I think, I don't recall. Lunch, I think, was not always appropriate. It's a conflict of interest. It's a problem. It could be a problem.
See.
Nevertheless, sometimes they would allow for it, but they would tell you to just be careful. At least let your supervisor know, so at least he would review your work. You didn't give the guy a discount because of that. But you're right. These things can happen very easily, and some people try it out. Somebody, I think, offered me once, "Why don't you come for the barbecue tonight?"
A kosher barbecue.
Yeah, sure. But that's what it is. That's a fact. Shochad. Now we've come to a very important pasuk about friendships, relationships. Mechaseh pesha mevakesh ahava, v'shoneh b'davar mafrid aluf. He who conceals transgression seeks love, but he who harps on a matter alienates Hashem, or alienates his friend. Aluf could either mean one's spouse, one's friend, or it could mean Hashem over here. Very, very significant pasuk. Mechaseh pesha mevakesh ahava. What's mechaseh pesha? People make mistakes, people yell, people criticize, people do things, and it happens. Hopefully we regret it, hopefully we ask forgiveness, and it's over. But many people don't forget. Even my wife reminds me, remember what you did 20 years ago? I said, but it was 20 years ago. Yeah. But I hear that it's true with many women. They have a long memory, of good things too. Okay? A long memory, but why you bring it up right now? I don't know. I don't understand sometimes why it's brought up at certain times. But they remember, they don't forget. So he tells us over here, you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with harping. I like the word harping. Good translation. Mechaseh pesha mevakesh ahava. You want to have a loving relationship with your spouse, with your friends. You want to be in good terms. Every transgression, every wrong that was done, mistake or intentionally, just ignore it. Forget it. Cover it up. Don't harp on it. Don't bring it up again. Once, of course, you've talked it out. You've talked about it and it's gone. Forget it. Don't bring it up again. Whoever covers up, whoever does not focus on the negative traits of everyone, mevakesh ahava, then he is seeking a loving relationship. He's seeking to have friends. One who will always harp, shoneh bedavar, he repeats and talks about it all the time, mafrid aluf. That he's going to lose all his friends, all the aluf, all the alufim, all the close people. Aluf is that which is close to you, that was important to you. Mafrid, you're separating. You're causing more and more problems. The friction is still there. You're alienating him. Yeah, that's what happens. When you harp on something, it creates distance. People don't realize that after 12 years of alienating each other, they go to marriage counselor. He's not going to help them. They've lost their love and affection for each other.
Too much bitterness.
Too much bitterness. It's still possible to come back, by the way, but it's very hard. So therefore, you wanna stay together, friends or husband and wife. You want to be mevakesh ahava. You have to be mechaseh. You have to be willing to forgive. Yes. Exactly. The commentaries tell us that if you don't, you're transgressing lo titor, not bearing a grudge.
I don't know how that applies.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be second or more
Or whatever. Yeah, maybe every 24 hours. Yeah. Every 24 hours. It's possible. Yeah.
Rabbi, people who are Rishayim, we cannot forgive or forget what they did to us, Rabbi.
That's something else. That we're not seeking their love and their relationship. He's advising us here. You want to have friends then you have to be mechaseh. You have to be ma'avir al amidot. You have to be willing to give in. Otherwise, ata mafrid aluf. Nobody will want to be your friend if you're harping and you always point out his faults. Husband has many times chances to point out a certain fault in his wife. Do you really want to do that? You know what you're going to do? Think about it. You know what you're going to do by pointing out a fault? You're going to alienate her. You see the same thing. I have to be fair to men and women. You're going to alienate him, the women. If you point out a fault, point it out once, talk about it in a nice, indirect way. Perhaps we can, get some help for this, and that's it. No, I remember you didn't do this. No, I didn't do that right. What for? And your mother did this and this. Oh no, that's even worse now. The mother's in the picture now too. Yeah, sure. And you know what that leads to? Oh, and I remember your mother too. Remember? She didn't pay for this, and they bought me this, and your parents didn't buy me that. And you know how it goes.
It escalates.
Yeah, it escalates. You're mevakesh ahava. You want to have a loving relationship. You have to be mechaseh. You have to forgive. You have to forget. And if anybody, by the way, tells you, you did this and you did that, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Instead of getting into an argument, no, you didn't understand it. Sometimes it doesn't pay to argue. It all depends on the individual, what sign they are. Astrologically, sometimes you don't win any arguments with them, and you also don't win if you keep quiet, because they're going to ask you, why are you quiet? Why are you quiet? Say something. So it's very, very hard to win. So what do? I change subjects. But my wife is smart. She says, why are you changing the subject? Yeah, anyway. But, so what do I say? What do you care? Why am I changing this subject? Let's change the subject. Baruch Hashem, I've been very successful when I change the subject. It really works. You just move on. You move on, So for the first few seconds, they're going to ask, why are you changing the subject? But after a while, they forgot that they said, why are you changing the subject? So it's okay. Yeah. Person who is a kapdan means he's strict, demanding, why isn't dinner ready? Again beans, again this, again that. There were some rabbis, who were married to women who were not such good cooks. But they swallowed, and they accepted, and secretly and quietly they made themselves something else later. And as long as you do it secretly, you don't want to insult her feelings, then it's okay. But to bring it up, what are you going to accomplish? There's a lot of ways to say it or to communicate it. By the way, I bought you for your birthday a book about cooking. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you have to be smart. How to do it. Yeah, don't take her to your mother for her to learn, right? From your mother. No, I don't think that's such a good idea. No, see, it takes a lot of intelligence to be able to handle these situations. But the bottom line here, what the pasuk is really saying is, you want to succeed in any relationship, you have to be willing to forgive and forgo. Cover it up. Otherwise, what you're asking is for mafrid aluf, to lose the friendship, to create distance, to alienate the other. Next pasuk, Tachat ge'ara b'mevin mehakot kesil me'ah. Here he translates it that the humility caused by the rebuke of an understanding person is more effective than 100 blows to a fool. All right, I would translate it like this: Tachat ge'ara b'mevin. When a mevin, an individual who has understanding, who's willing to listen, he receives a ge'ara, he receives a rebuke. That's all that he needs. It's effective for him. He's a mevin. That's much more powerful than mehakot ksil me'ah, that if you give 100 makot to ksil. Ksil, even if you give him over his head 100 times, he won't listen. He won't change. A person who's a mevin, all he needs is a rebuke. Sometimes you don't have to hit a child. Sometimes you don't have to hit. Sometimes you can give a ge'ara, and if he has some havana, he will understand. A person who's a kesil, even if you hit him over his head, it won't help. Now, Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz says something beautiful in the Sefer Yarot Dvash, in the Drashot. He says like this: if somebody has a good friend, two good friends, the musar of a good friend is much more powerful than 1,000 speeches of the rabbi. A person can come to shul, can come to a class and hear it 1,000 times. It will not be as effective if a friend tells it to him, because he knows, oh, this friend is on my side. He means my benefit, my good. So therefore, that if you have any influence over anybody, you have to take advantage of it. Over your children, if you have a good relationship with them, hopefully you do, is to tell them in a nice way, because that will be more effective than if a teacher tells it to them. Now, there are some teachers who have formed beautiful relationships with students, and the student can point to us 35 years later, I remember that teacher. He was nice to me. He said this and this to me. And they remember the ones that hit him over their head too. That teacher I didn't like. He always used to pull my ear. Yeah, there were teachers like that. Today they're more careful. So a good friend can have a tremendous amount of influence on his friend, much more than the rabbi. So therefore he should take advantage of it. Next pasuk, Ach meri yevakesh ra umalach achzari yishulach bo. He who's only rebellious seeks evil, and a cruel angel shall be sent against him. What that means is a person who is a meri, he's rebellious. A person who is rebellious, and it has to do with the previous pasuk. What can you do? What is Hashem going to do with someone who's rebellious? He has to send him a malach achzari, a cruel angel. A cruel angel means some sort of punishment. Maybe that's the only way he will understand that he's doing something wrong. Therefore, the rabbis tell us that the way Hashem begins is not with the malach. If somebody is misbehaving himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu usually sends something after his finances. That's the kapara, that's the first sign, first signal. If he got the message, good, that's where it stops. Didn't get the message, it goes after his goof. Becomes sick. Doesn't help, then Chas v'Shalom at the very end, the worst possible thing is he goes after the nefesh, he takes his soul. Hashem never goes after the goof or the neshama or the nefesh before he goes after his finances. Finances is step number one. A lot of people come to me, Rabbi, I have an evil eye, an ayin hara, or a kishuf. Somebody caused some witchcraft. The parnasah is struggling. So why are you blaming the witchcraft or the ayin hara? Maybe you're not keeping Shabbat properly. Maybe you're fighting with your wife too. You know, if a person fights with his wife and she cries, he is affecting the parnasah of his house. He's affecting the beracha of his house. So people are blaming everything except for themselves. First, examine your own deeds. What's going on in your home before you try to blame somebody ayin hara on you. Yes?
The last part, you said if the person fights with his wife,
Right?
and she's crying,
It could ruin his parnasah.
really?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Pagosh dov shakul beish val ksil bivalto. May a bereaving bear encounter a person rather than a fool with his folly. Dov shakul, a bereaving bear, a bear that just lost one of his pups. Pups? Cubs. So what's a pup?
For a dog.
A dog, or whatever. Lost one of his little cubs. He's very, very mad. You're better off meeting up with such a dog, with such a bear. Dangerous, but not as dangerous as a nevil. A nevil, a fool that is out there to mislead you. Lasitu ladiach. Because the dog may hurt one ba'olam hazeh. A mesitu mediach, one who misleads a Jew, is misleading him from olam haba. In the world to come, that is even more dangerous. So that one has to be careful a lot more with such an individual. Let's see if we have time for one more pasuk here. Meshiv ra'a tachat tova lo tamush ra'a mibeto. He who repays evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. This is the midah of kfiyut tova. Kfiyut tova means being ungrateful. It's a terrible midah. Then there's something even worse called meshalem ra'a tachat tova. Doing bad or harming one, and he has done something good to you. Instead of repaying him the good, we do halila something bad to him. That's even worse than just being ungrateful and not acknowledging or recognizing it. A terrible midah. And there was a story in the Gemara, I think in the Gemara, that of Rabbi Abba, who once saw an individual coming from far away, taking a nap, a snake coming to bite him, and all of a sudden, before the snake bit him, a rock fell down and killed the snake. After he got up from his place, a big landslide came down exactly where he was sitting. 2 miracles. Rabbi Abba says, tell me, Ma ma'asecha, you must be a tzaddik. What do you do a whole day that you had 2 miracles? I don't do too much. He says, but I forgive everyone. Whoever did anything against me, I always forgive everybody. And even if somebody did something against me, I always try to do good with them. He did bad, and I try to do good to them. This individual, zachaf to 2 nisim, instead of being kafui tova and afuch, He looks for ways to help people. Another interpretation of this pasuk is what Rabbi Meir did. Rabbi Meir once made peace between two neighbors. After that, he heard the Satan saying, I just got kicked out of this house. Because as long as they were fighting, I was living in that house. But now that peace is reigning in the homes, I got kicked out. That's the meaning of this pasuk. A person who's ungrateful, he will always have it bad. One who has ra'ah in the house is also will not be able to bring in the good into the house. In other words, one is causing with his own actions to bring about the ra'ah. By allowing it to stay. Rabbi Meir, therefore, by making peace between the neighbors, he was able to bring tovah, and he was therefore able to drive out the ra'ah. He was able to drive out the Satan. Why is a person kafui tovah? The word kafui could either mean to cover up, he ignores that something good was done to him, or it could be kofeh, ze magia li, it's coming to me. And that is why he's ungrateful if he thinks it's coming to me. Therefore, I always tell people, in order to be careful from this midah fiyu tovah, a person should always remember, shum davar lo magia lano, nothing is coming to us. If we get something, then we should be thankful and grateful to it. One should never have an attitude, ze magia li, it's coming to me. Nothing, no magia. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wishes it, if He blesses us, then we will receive it, and we will be thankful, we will be grateful, and we will acknowledge it. When a child is born, we make a seudah. A lot of people, if a girl is born, oh seudah, that's it, it's a girl. She's healthy, be thankful, say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You leave the bathroom, say Asher Yatzar. Don't take anything for granted. There's a lot of people who can't go easily to the bathroom. They have diapers. I'm talking about older people. So we have to be thankful for everything. A person that gets used to thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not taking anything for granted, not having the attitude that it's coming to him, it will help him stay away from this terrible midat called kfiyut tovah, being ungrateful. A Jew has to be continuously grateful that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has restored him his neshama every morning. That is why we say, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech hav v'kayam, shehzarta bi nishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha.